I now invite the President and Vice-Chancellor, Professor Margaret Gardner, to present a candidate for the degree of Doctorate of Laws, honoris causa.
Thank you, Deputy Chancellor. Deputy Chancellor, it is my very great pleasure to read this citation. Mr. Shane Buggle is a highly regarded business and community leader with significant and extensive experience in various areas of the banking and finance industry, spanning over 35 years. Following an accomplished 25-year career with the ANZ Banking Group, Mr. Bugle recently retired in November 2021 as Chief Financial Officer. During his time at ANZ, Mr. Bugle also held a number of other senior positions, including Group General Manager, Internal Audit, and Deputy Group Chief Financial Officer. Beyond his career with ANZ, Mr. Bugle held senior roles in organisations both in Australia and Ireland, including at CPA Australia, Zurich Financial Services, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. Mr. Bugle's a Fellow of the Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand, CPA Australia and the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Ireland, and is a member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. He has previously served on the National Executive of the Group of 100. Mr. Buggle's also actively engaged with the community, currently appointed as the Director of the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, and he's a member of the Diocesan Finance Committee for the Archdiocese of Melbourne. He's also had a deep interest in engagement with Indigenous peoples, having worked as the Chair of the ANZ's Reconciliation Action Plan, as well as being the Executive Sponsor of the Reconciliation Network and of Njara Wangaja. He's a strong advocate for education and innovation, and has helped Monash University in particular through his expertise, advice and guidance, formally through our governance committees and informally through his long connections with the university. Mr. Bugle was a member of Monash University Council from 2007 to 2018 and chaired the university's Resources and Finance Committee from 2008 to 2018. He was Deputy Chancellor of Monash University from 2015 to 2018 and served as the inaugural Chair of the university's Investment Advisory Committee. No stranger to this very stage, Mr. Bugle presided over 21 graduation ceremonies during his tenure as Deputy Chancellor. He made a valuable, long-lasting contribution to Monash. We never doubted for 1 second his commitment, his amazing hard work. Mr. Bugle has a Bachelor of Commerce and a Diploma of Professional Accounting from University College Dublin. Deputy Chancellor, it gives me the greatest pleasure to present to you for admission to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, Shane Michael Buggle.
With the authority of Council, I now admit you, Shane Michael Buggle, to the degree of Doctorate of Laws, honoris causa. So, Dr. Bugle, I now invite you to give to both the graduates and the assembled audience the graduation address.
Thank you, Deputy Chancellor. the Honourable Peter Young, President and Vice Chancellor Professor Margaret Gardner, President of the Academic Board and Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Business and Economics, Professor Robert Brooks, Dean of the Faculty of Business and Economics, Professor Simon Wilkie, Interim Deputy Vice Chancellor and Senior Vice President, Enterprise and Engagement, Mr. Damien Farrell, members of faculty and members of council. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and especially the new graduates. Firstly, can I add my acknowledgement of the Kulin Nations as the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here today. I am honoured, and to be honest, rightly humbled, to be awarded the degree of Doctor of Law honoris causa, and to do so with this group, the Faculty of Business and Economics, is particularly gratifying. But most of all, it's a single honour to be here with you, all of you, the new graduates. Please accept my heartiest congratulations on your accomplishments, which culminated in your conferrals this morning. I also wish to acknowledge the support of your family and partners and friends. Rest assured, Monash graduates, they are proud of you, with good reason. My wife and I have 3 sons, all of whom attend university, indeed this university, Monash. So I have some idea of what you've endured over the past 2 years of the pandemic, how you've been forced to adapt, but that doesn't stop me marvelling at what you've achieved. To complete a Monash degree is to obtain a key which will open many opportunities, but to have earned your degree while soldiering through the myriad limitations and vexations imposed by a pandemic is on another order entirely. It's been stressful, even for us not taking Zoom classes and sitting final exams. For you to be here today, you are forced both to hunker down and to set your sights high. That's a feat of academic gymnastics, which demonstrates admirable resilience. I commend you. The COVID pandemic has forced us to think and rethink who we are, what we want to achieve, and how best to chart a path forward. How to navigate towards a bright future when we don't possess all the information we desire or require. As the CFO at ANZ Bank until recently, I can tell you that you've already learned a very important lesson. COVID aside, uncertainty is actually one of life's guarantees. But as you prepare to embark on the next chapter of your lives, I thought I would offer a few other suggestions I hope might prove helpful. I've entitled my remarks, Live Life Forward. Those of you who've read some philosophy may recognise this fragment of a quotation from the work of the Danish philosopher and theologian Søren Kierkegaard. I read a biography of Kierkegaard during the pandemic and dwelt on his comment that life can only be understood backward, but it must be lived forward. That's deceptively simple, isn't it? And important. I urge you to throw yourselves into the project of living with gusto. Demonstrate initiative. You will make mistakes, I certainly have, but it is possible to learn from your errors without growing mired in regret and recrimination. We must live forward. I have a few suggestions for how to go about this. Here's the first. I suggest you embrace good risk. I realise this might sound like curious advice coming from a CFO. Risk. We CFOs need to be careful, don't we? Consider the bank for which I worked. ANZ has $1 trillion in assets. Yes, that's a trillion with a T. And yet our return on assets is around 0.5%. That means that a small mistake could have significant consequences, which is why I stress good risk. What do I mean by that? I would say a good risk has meaning behind it and opportunity in front of it. It's a good fit for you, and there's a stretch. Allow me to give you an example of good risk. As you may tell, I wasn't born here. I was working in Dublin for Pricewaterhouse when the firm offered me the opportunity to work in Australia. The assignment would last 18 months. To entice me, and to help me understand that the hot part of this country is in the north and the cooler part down south, they kindly showed me a map of Australia upside down, superimposed in the Northern Hemisphere. Clearly, they didn't rate my geographic prowess, but I confess, I did use that map to choose Melbourne as my preferred destination. That offer was a gift-wrapped example of a good risk. I was offered an adventure, the geographical equivalent of try before you buy. I said yes, and here I am, 35 years later. I never exactly intended to stay. You could say I was just slow at leaving. You could also point out, and you'd be right, that my marrying a charming Australian had something to do with it. The point is, it was a good risk and I took it. I landed comfortably in Australia. I feel the gifts of both my countries, the fortune too, although the luck of the Irish is a phrase that is imperfectly understood as Australia being called the lucky country. But here's the thing about luck. It only takes a person so far. I'd suggest a more important quality, and incidentally one over which you have far more control, is pluck. Pluck is there to nudge you to accept a good risk. Joining the Council of Monash Australia was not on my plan, no more than coming to Australia was. But one leap leads to the next. A then Chancellor was on the board of ANZ Bank, where I worked. We got talking about the tertiary sector. As it happens, my mother was an academic, and I knew the importance of the sector to make a difference to society. And it was a chance discussion at a Monash graduation ceremony, much like this, that led me to the Finance Committee, and more recently the board of the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. Luck, sure, but it's pluck that makes us jump in. Let me put it another way. If good risk is a spark, pluck is the flint. And I'm confident you will discover, as I have, that opportunity ignites opportunity. That said, it's also important to choose opportunity which suits us, not our parents, or friends, or partners, us. I was a CFO and good at it. I was never likely to become an opera singer or to kick a bag of goals for Collingwood. As the witty Oscar Wilde observed, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. This is excellent advice, but as a man newly honoured as a Doctor of Laws, I feel justified to add a proviso, a stipulation. I would say, be yourself with updates. We all know updates matter on a smartphone at ANZ Bank, in life. University is an important way to add to your store of knowledge and wisdom. Your chosen profession will be another. But you will have additional opportunities. As you live life forward, remember to learn sideways. What do I mean by that? I would suggest, in addition to the deep knowledge you will gain regarding your chosen field, it can be highly gratifying to broaden your horizons. In July, Forbes magazine had an article entitled 7 Trends for Adapting to a Post-Pandemic World. I quote, during the pandemic, 87% of people took up new hobbies and activities. People are much more likely to measure their own value by the things they know how to do versus the things they've accumulated. So, to live life forward, we should accept good risk, demonstrate pluck, be ourselves with updates, or as Monash's motto puts it, ancora imparo. And yet, that is not all there is to it. I'm grateful to be honoured as a man of law, though at my core, I'm a man of numbers. Over the course of the pandemic, I thought about numbers, and I pondered the additional, non-mathematical definition of prime numbers. By this, I mean the number of people of prime importance in your life. During the pandemic, I'm sure each of us thought about that. As life telescoped, we found ourselves reminded of the importance of key individuals and of the communities we missed. Which is why I suggest that whatever path you choose, I hope you remember the way we fit together as a community, how we can help one another. Over the course of this pandemic, we've all done seemingly impossible things. At ANZ, we took a business with 45,000 employees in 33 countries and proceeded to manage it from our kitchens, living rooms, and bedrooms within a week. Each and every one of you finished your university degree in difficult circumstances, adapting constantly. I'm reminded of a quote from an author I admire, the brilliant Hilary Mantel. In Wolf Hall, she writes, fortitude. It means fixity of purpose. It means endurance. It means have the strength to live with what constrains you. You have demonstrated great fortitude to be here today, and I again congratulate you on your signal achievements. The pandemic reminded us that we do the impossible. Given what you have already achieved, I look forward to seeing what you do next. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you for those well-considered, well-prepared words based on a lifetime of study and then more particular work experience and dealing with all the issues that banking and finance raises. Risk, good risk, opportunity. Of course, I wish the very best for all of our graduates today as you go into the world, a post-COVID pandemic world, we all hope, and make your careers and your futures. May I just take a moment on behalf of Monash University Council and the members of Council who are on stage here today to reaffirm what the Vice-Chancellor has said of Shane's contribution to Monash, sharing resources and finance for 10 years, serving as Deputy Chancellor and 11 years on Council, an enormous time-consuming role that you played with distinction. So thanks to you again from Monash University and Monash Council.